And here we go on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Dan Labbe and Mary Kay Cabot. And Mary Kay, just another busy day here covering the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson in Cleveland passed his physical. We are expecting, and maybe by the time people listen to this, we'll know all the details, but we are expecting to hear from Deshaun, have an introductory press conference on Friday. This was kind of the last, I don't know if I want to call it a hurdle because I think it was sort of a foregone conclusion, but this was kind of the last hurdle here to sort of making Deshaun Watson a Cleveland Brown.
Yes, they had to not only get through the physical today, but he also had to give some depositions in Houston on Tuesday and maybe even Wednesday, but I know for sure on Tuesday. And then he had to cross the other hurdle, and that was another grand jury hearing that took place last night in a county outside of Houston. And today, as we're taping this on Thursday, Deshaun was not indicted. The grand jury decided not to indict him on any criminal charges, which was the same thing basically that happened in Harris County on March 11th, when that grand jury heard 9 criminal complaints and opted not to criminally charge him on any of those. So now we've got 2 grand juries that have had an opportunity to charge him with some criminal wrongdoing, and both of them have decided not to do it. So that's good news for Deshaun, and that's good news for the Cleveland Browns. Still a lot to come, but from a criminal standpoint, it's good for both of those entities.
Yeah, and this was sort of related to the one a few weeks ago, obviously in a different county, but there were 10 charges, and this was kind of the last of the group. They were waiting on what that grand jury did. They didn't return an indictment, and so this one was sort of, I guess, kind of a straggler in all of this. They wanted to, since it was in a different county.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why, when it seemed like there was something new that cropped up today and everybody was all abuzz about it, that's a little bit of a misconception, a lot of one, actually. This was just, there were 10 sort of police complaints. 9 of them were heard in Harris County. 1 of them was heard in Brazoria County. All of them have decided no indictments on any of the 10.
So this is where we pretend to be legal experts, I guess. Could there be more coming down the pipeline? Can we even speculate on that? Or are we at least maybe clear of some of the criminal complaints?
Well, he is clear of all pending criminal complaints as of right now. So there's nothing outstanding in terms of a criminal complaint, a police complaint. Now, I did see some quotes by Tony Busby in an ESPN story today stating that he believes there will be more criminal complaints filed, and he actually is considering possible more civil cases. Now, what is currently outstanding are 22 civil cases. The depositions have taken place in, I believe, 16 of those, but there are 22 civil suits outstanding right now. And that's what's going to be going on over the next how many ever months or how many ever years potentially until these things are sorted out and figured out. Now, there have been no plans whatsoever yet to settle any of these civil suits on the part of Rusty Hardin, Deshaun's lawyer, or Deshaun, because they feel that he is innocent of these accusations. And Tony Busby obviously feels opposite of that. And so this thing could drag out for quite a while.
Yeah. So, and then as far as the NFL is concerned, we still don't know what their plan is at this point. This is where we remind everyone that not finding an indictment isn't necessarily saying he's not guilty. Obviously, we're not saying he is guilty either. So, how do you think the NFL approaches this? If we get to whenever they kind of have to make a decision and there are no indictments still, does that affect the suspension, or are those things kind of separate?
I think it will affect the suspension. I think the NFL will take everything into account in its investigation and in making its determination on how many games to suspend Deshaun for. And the fact that 2 grand juries have found him, not guilty of criminal activity, I think that will be meaningful. But again, he does still have 22 suits pending, and I don't know to what extent. I don't know where they're at in their investigation right now. but their findings could result in a multiple game suspension under the personal conduct policy, and the Browns have braced themselves for that. I think they feel that something is going to happen in terms of him missing some games. It's one of the reasons why they went out and they signed Jacoby Brissett, so that they will have sort of a seamless transition between two quarterbacks who share a similar skill set. And I think that they are prepared for Jacoby to have to start some games.
Yeah, that wasn't a coincidence that they brought in Jacoby, obviously, in that situation. And just to clarify again, because I know I've been on Twitter the last week, just so no one jumps in our mentions. We understand that not being indicted isn't a guilty or not guilty verdict. So don't jump in our mentions about that. So he clears his physical, and the Browns are set to introduce him on Friday. I guess, what's one thing that you really want to know on Friday, whether it's from him, whether it's from Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, who I believe we're supposed to hear from? Is there, obviously there's a million things, but like, what's kind of the one pressing thing that you're curious about when we do finally get to talk to these guys?
I think that the number one question that I would have is, why should we believe that you are innocent? Why should we believe that there are 22 civil suits outstanding against you? Help us to understand why you are not the person that these 22 women, or actually 24 women, accuse you of being. And I think that's the number one thing. I think that's sort of the overarching theme of Deshaun being here right now is he a good, upstanding citizen and human being, or is he someone that people have to worry about in this regard?
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes this tough, is this is the first time he'll have to answer questions about this stuff. I think the only thing he's done so far is make a statement, but he hasn't had to answer questions. So that's going to make this even a little more complicated. And for me, it's just sort of, I want to hear from, I guess this would be Andrew. I'd love to hear from the Haslams, but I would just kind of like to hear their response to some of the fans who are really uncomfortable with this, and fans who have said that they're not going to root for the Browns anymore, and kind of what they would say to those fans about their process and about why they made this decision.